miracle. Well, there's two ways to prove something's true. One way is called the scientific method. You have a hypothesis, you test it through scientific theory. Let's come up with one. Soap floats. How do you know soap floats? Be the skeptic. Well, you put some water, take some bar of soap, put it on there. Hey, it floats. Do it again. It floats. Do it again. Some soap doesn't float, though. That soap sunk. Lava. It's got that grit in it. It's a man soap. I'm sorry, ladies. It's probably lady soap, too. But watch this now. So how do you do it by scientific method. That's how you prove something's true. But how do you use scientific method to prove that George Washington was the President of the United States? You can't. Well, we have pictures of him. That's not science, though. So how do you know George Washington was the President of the United States? There's another way to prove something's true. It's called legal historical methodology. Legal historical. That's another way to prove something by testimony. You have a guilty or innocent in the middle of the circle. Then you have testimony. It's called evidence that demands a verdict. The guy who wrote the process by which we try people today, his name is Simon Greenleaf. Simon Greenleaf was an atheist professor at Harvard. The students said, use your evidentiary process by which we try people, the one that he wrote that we use today still. He said, use that process to put Jesus on trial, to prove him guilty or innocent. Simon Greenleaf took a year sabbatical, came back a Christian. He said, it's true. I used his own process to prove him true. Josh McDowell, when he was in law school, was an agnostic law student. He tried to disprove Simon Greenleaf's material. Josh McDowell got saved. He became a preacher. These guys are brilliant men. Lee Strobel, who was the chief legal editor for the Chicago Tribune, brought down one of the top Chicago crime bosses' top hitmen. Brought him down. He had a journalism degree from the University of Chicago and a law degree from Yale. I said, Yale! Sorry, it's not funny. Lee Strobel's wife got saved through Willow Creek Community's church service. Bill Hybels led her to Christ at the church service one time. So Lee Strobel said, well, I need to go and see what's going on here. And he goes and investigates Willow Creek and hears what the preacher has to say. He says, okay. He takes a little sabbatical and tries to disprove Christianity by using his legal historical methodology. And he gets saved. I don't know if you've ever read the books Case for Christ or Case for Faith, Case for Creation. Brilliant stuff. Brilliant. At a different level, a little bit higher than my intelligence, but it's brilliant. And that Lee Strobel, all of it comes down to one major thing, and that's a miracle that we could prove. Now, there is one miracle that I believe I could come really close to proving legally, historically, based on testimony. And it's the miracle of the resurrection. It is the key miracle that I believe I can prove. Now, how do I prove it? This is a little controversial, so you got to be careful who you're talking to about this, but I use it often. I prove it through waterboarding. It's a little bit controversial. Someone raise your hand if you know what waterboarding is. Raise your hand, you know what waterboarding is. Oh, a bunch of you. Waterboarding is a nasty form of torture. They put somebody on their back, put a cloth on their head. I know exactly how they do it. I've never been waterboarded before, so I just saw it on television one time, plus I stayed at Holiday Inn Express a few. If you keep laughing, we're not going to get done today, okay? So you got to be a little more mature. So watch it now. So cloth over there, they pour the water on their faces, and they're trying to get information from somebody. One of the top psychologists in the world, according to Josh McDowell's books, Evidence That Demands a Verdict. I read his book, Evidence That Demands a Verdict. I didn't know you weren't supposed to. I didn't know it was a reference book. I read the whole thing. I was begging the author, please tell me a story. It was fact. Ah! Then I read the second one, More Evidence That Demands a Verdict. He combined them both to Ready Defense now. Pretty good books. These guys are all like my heroes in the faith. So, forgot what I was saying. Where was I? I'm completely blank. Squirrel! Someone. What? Waterboarding. That's why I forgot. See, it's like issues with the mind. So what happens is, the top psychologist in the world said no one will ever die willingly, according to Josh McDowell, no one will ever die willingly keeping in information. They won't allow themselves to be tortured keeping in information. We have captured, I'm telling you, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of terrorists around the world from waterboarding. Now, I'm not saying I'm for it or against it. I'm not going to tell you that, because this might be recorded right now. Yeah. I mean, if they waterboard me, I have nothing to hide. Go ahead. But it's impossible. See, I can use waterboarding to prove that Jesus is God. How do I use that? All the disciples, except for one, died a torturous death. All they had to do was say, we did not see him risen from the dead. We made it up. What happened to the body? Could he have gone into a coma? Well, if he did, how did he float up into heaven with clear balloons and clear wires? Helium. So they couldn't have been a coma. The Jews couldn't have taken him, nor the Romans, because if the Jews and Romans take the body, they throw it in the street, and that's it. They're done with it. So what happened? The only option is the disciples took the body and made the whole thing up. It's the only option. That's legitimate, and the only one written down in antiquity, the only one written down in history. So did they take the body and make it all up? Well, would they have died for it if they took the body and made it all up? Joseph Smith, the founder of the Mormon Church, he had 11 disciples while he walked the earth. Joseph Smith, 8 of his 11 disciples, before they passed away, confessed, I have pictures of the letters in a book at home, confessed that Joseph Smith made the whole thing up. We never saw the tablets. It was all a big fake. 8 of the 11 disciples. The other 3 died in a gunfight in Ohio. They didn't have a chance to confess. There's something about death that makes you get things right. Something about death. You ever seen a movie and the person's giving their last words? Everyone leans forward to hear what they're going to say. Something about death. See, the disciples were tortured to death saying, we saw Jesus risen from the dead. Bartholomew was flayed alive. A common form of torture where they cut the skin off you like filleting a fish, filleted alive. Thaddeus was shot to death by arrows. Matthias was thrown from the pinnacle of the temple and beaten to death with clubs. James was beheaded. Matthew was beheaded. Thomas got the furthest. He got all the way to Southeast India and was run through with a lance in Southeast India. In my book, the Christian Man Laws, I have all this information in my book if you're missing some of it. So Peter came to a cross and said, I'm not worthy to die like Jesus died, turned the cross upside down, and he died inverted on a cross. You know how you die inverted on a cross? You choke on your own guts. All of them died saying, we saw Jesus risen from the dead. Now, it still takes faith for me to believe that Jesus rose from the dead, but it's not a leap of faith. It's not, it's a step of faith, Kierkegaard. I don't have to take a huge leap. It's just a little simple step. It still takes faith, but it's brilliant faith, intellectual faith. I believe because it's true. Scripture says that you shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Well, that's what I'm free. I believe because it's true. Jesus rose from the dead.